Today is the last Sunday after Pentecost. The long green season is over. I'm wearing white for a reason. And it's known as Proper 29 in the prayer book. There's no mention of the feast of Christ the King. I promise you, look it up. It's not in your prayer book. It just says Proper 29. That's all. Yet our collect for today speaks of Christ as King of Kings and Lord of Lords. But there's no mention of the feast of the reign of Christ. And yet, this is the 100th anniversary of the establishment of the feast of the reign of Christ, the King of the universe, its official name. So what gives? Where did this come from? It comes from the Roman Catholic Church, and it was established by Pius XI, the Pope, who was the Pope in the earliest part of this century, the Pope between the two great wars. Now, it is celebrated as Christ the King Sunday in other parts of the Anglican Communion. In the Church of England, the last 4 Sundays of ordinary time are called Kingdom Tide. And the focus is on the eschatological end of times and the truth that Christ reigns over all. They actually wear red for that little mini season within a season. And with the Revised Common Lectionary, we actually do focus on the coming of the kingdom and the destruction of things that we see. Last week, we heard about the destruction of the temple, right? This week, we have the destruction of a body on the cross. The feast was established in 1925, as I said, by Pius XI. What was going on in Italy in 1925? The what? 4 kingdoms fell. Yeah, 4 kingdoms fell. Italy had only been reunified, truly reunified completely, since 1870. It was one of the last nations to come together and coalesce. In 1922, Benito Mussolini was elected as prime minister. Now, he did establish Vatican City as its own country. Until then, the Italians had taken over Rome and taken over the Vatican. So that created a whole church-state thing. There was an incident, shall we say. So the Papal States became Vatican City in 1922. But who also came to power in 1922? Joseph Stalin. The same year as Benito Mussolini, Joseph Stalin came to power in Russia. It was 2 years after a young upstart nationalist named Adolf Hitler tried to overthrow the German government in the Beer Hall Putsch of 1923. He was sentenced to 5 years in prison, but got out after a year, and he wrote his book, Mein Kampf, My Struggle. Hitler was on the rise. He hadn't fully come to power yet. And it would be another decade or so before the Spanish crown was overthrown by Generalissimo Francisco Franco, who is still dead, by the way. Just, if you know, you know. Kingdoms were falling and nationalists were rising in 1925. There was a rise of secularism that was threatening the power of the church. And I will posit this, that even though people choose to be secular, they will choose a religion of sorts. Sometimes they will choose the religion of greed or the religion of secular politics. We all try to grab on to something that is bigger than us in our temporal life. The question is, what do we grab onto? What has ultimate authority? So Pope Pius XI saw this rise of secularism, the rise of nationalism happening around him, kingdoms falling, and he established in this Jubilee year, because yes, 1925 was a Jubilee year, the Feast of the Reign of Christ, the King of the universe, not just King of Italy or Europe or the world or the earth, the cosmos. Christ, the eternal cosmic King, the ultimate authority for Christian lives. And that flies in the face of the messages that were flying around in the culture at that time. Because demagogic leaders were rising who demanded worship. Demagogic leaders who had hatred for the church. Stalin hated the church. Hitler definitely hated the church. He wanted to take it over and use it for political purposes, but he hated the church. He hated Christianity. So the Feast of the Reign of Christ gets established to put our eyes on what real kingship looks like, and it looks like nothing from this world. It doesn't look like leaders who come along and say, I alone have all the answers. Doesn't look like a demagogue. It looks like a man dying on a cross. Our King took the L for us. That is not the picture of a winner by human standards, is it? Absolutely not. This is the foolishness of the cross that Paul speaks of. It doesn't look like winning. It looks like losing. Losing everything. That looks everything this world values. Losing everything this world values for the sake of something much greater. That God would be all in all. It was a challenge to Christians in those days to keep their eyes fixed where the true joys are found, realizing this world that we live in is temporal. But when we become fearful, we tend to latch onto it with all our might. And the message of the cross is that we have to let it go. Because ultimate worth is not found here. We are passing through. We are to be the sign of that cosmic reign of Christ, the Christ who lives in us that we take into the world. We are called to care and love this world, but not give it the ultimate worth that earthly leaders want us to give it. Not to give it ultimate worth, because we are just passing through. So on this Feast of the Reign of Christ, we keep our eyes on that end goal. The end goal that we all pursue, the end goal to be united with Christ. Not only in this life, but in the life to come. We are baptized to die to this world and to live as eternal beings. That is our call. On this Feast of the Reign of Christ, we are reminded to fix our eyes there, to not be distracted to the left or to the right by those who would instill fear in our hearts, fear of others, fear of loss. We're called to examine those things that we give ultimate worth to, or those things we try to latch onto in our anxiety, and to release them to the King of Kings and Lord of Lords.